Well, everybody, it is WrestleMania week, and we're going to Las Vegas, Nevada in the Squared Circle Time Machine. We go back to 1993 to talk about the last time WrestleMania was in Las Vegas before this year with WrestleMania IX. It's me, Greg, with Dane. And Dane, as I said last week, it's very fitting we're doing this because we got WrestleMania this week, and the WrestleMania IX documentary just got released on Peacock yesterday.
Yes, and we were talking about it during the pre-show. It's definitely something to watch, as it's some interesting highlights, I guess, and information, I guess, was dropped in this documentary. And a lot of Easter eggs as well, too, because apparently you can spot future WWE executive Nick Khan as a security at some point.
Yeah, at the end that they point out in the documentary, like when Fink is interviewing some people in the crowd, they show in the background there's Nick Khan right there. So who knew that the future boss of the company would be with everybody at WrestleMania 9?
And I think that's got to be the best cameo to main event appearance ever, even topping CM Punk as the side gangster on John Cena's entrance at whatever WrestleMania that was, to now main eventing Saturday night here for WrestleMania next week.
It was when he was one of the gangsters at the Chicago Mania in 22.
Okay.
So we got to get into it. WrestleMania 9. And this was, as they talk about in the documentary, a year of transition for WWE because Hulk had left the company after WrestleMania 8 to focus on movies. And so in the fall, we had Bret become champ, defeating Flair and Saskatoon in October.
Saskatoon.
There's a funny story because I don't know if you ever listened to the Dave Lap's Fan WrestleMania series like 11 or 12 years ago.
No.
Okay, so for the one in WrestleMania 9, Dave was hearing stuff about Warrior possibly winning the title, and Dave was getting a call like, yeah, they changed the title in Saskatoon. And Dave said, why would they change the title and give it to Warrior in Saskatoon? And somebody told him, no, it wasn't Warrior, it was Bret who won the title in Saskatoon.
I remembered myself as 92, that I'd be 13 years old watching WWF Superstars that week, kind of the weekend, and it opens up with Mean Gene at the podium spot there. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new WWF champion, Bret the Hitman Hart. And I was like, what the? I was like, oh, I was excited, and I even had to get my mom because she was a big Stampede wrestling fan, and like Bret always, and I had to tell Mom, yeah, Bret's champion now. And she was excited about that, and then just all the way throughout the rest of Superstars there, because Mr. Perfect was heel commentator with Vince, I believe, and every time Perfect would always just sneer like, Saskatoon.
But also we have in the midst a new challenger waiting for Bret for WrestleMania, because this is the first year that they had the title shot for WrestleMania on the line in the Royal Rumble, and it was won by somebody who had just debuted in the fall.
Yes, and that would be someone that Mr. Fuji brought from the Far East, as Virgil said, at Survivor Series 92. This Yokozuna, whatever this guy. Virgil told us we had to keep an eye on that Yokozuna.
Yeah, because it felt like the Titanic shoving down him. You heard him with Lord Al.
Yeah.
Probably denied him that F money and those Olive Garden breadsticks that night because he sat on them too hard. I also remember, like, in the lead up, there was also the Hacksaw Jim Duggan feud.
Yeah.
Where Duggan got Yokozuna off his feet, and then he freaking crushed Duggan, like Banzai dropped him like 3 times, I think.
One of the times he did they tripped the U.S. flag on him, and Yoko Banzai dropped him with the flag over it. So that got some good enough foreign heel evil heat on Yoko.
And, of course, he would win the Royal Rumble because Randy Savage didn't understand the rules of the match.
No, he didn't. And to think that we could have. Although, how would have after Savage hit the elbow, how was he going to get 500 pounds of Yokozuna out to win?
I don't know, Dane. How is he going to push him up? Maybe
Yeah.
he thought it was WrestleFest rules. Can't explain it.
No.
But also, we had during this time the premiere of a new show debuting from the Manhattan Center called Monday Night Raw, replacing primetime wrestling in January.
Ah, yes. The end of one era to the beginning of a new era.
And within the first or second month of Monday Night Raw, we would have the return of Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Who was unfortunately had his face almost caved completely, well, probably was caved in from a parasailing accident back in 1990. This was his actual in-ring, because he had returned. He had his own little interview segment, The Barbershop, which had two of the more famous moments on it, with Shawn Michaels throwing Marty Jannetty through the window and cementing Sid's heel turn on Hogan for the build for Mania 8, with Sid smashing everything and getting the shaving cream. Yeah.
Come on, Hogan! You're a coward!
Oh, cow. But yeah, this was Brutus's big return to in-ring action against one half of the tag team champions, being Money Inc., and he was facing the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
And what happened in this match, Dane?
Well, at one point, towards the end of the points, DiBiase and his partner, the IRS, or Erwin R. Shyster, decided to lay a licking on poor Brutus and decided to use their trademark Steel Halliburton suitcase to try and end the career of Brutus Beefcake right there and then. And even their manager, Jimmy Hart, this was a step too far and tried to intervene and stop them. But Jimmy Hart got pushed down, and the Dastardly Heels were successful in at least crippling Beefcake for the time being.
But that enraged somebody, Dane.
Oh, it enraged someone, all right.
Yeah, brother, this is not going to stand with me.
Oh, you know the lyrics to my song, brother.
We have the Hulkster returning after a 1-year absence. And him and Brutus, along with Jimmy, decide to form a tag team called the Mega Maniacs.
And they also got a new shiny facial appliance for Beefcake as well.
That's right. They have a face mask for Brutus, which now we saw the March to WrestleMania 9 on the Vault YouTube channel.
Yes.
And we have to bring up the insane promo that the Hulkster cut.
Both of them cut like an insane promo with that. Because Beefcake was talking about shopping at Kmart for things, and Hogan was just talking about going down to Venice Beach and sharks and bringing the sharks to Las Vegas, and then all the showgirls are going to be able to party all night with the sharks, and I don't...
Did the Hulkster go to a San Jose Sharks game and see that intro for the San Jose Sharks where like all the sharks come flying out from the water and then they wear like hockey jerseys and stuff?
Who knows?
That's actually a real thing. That actually happened in the San Jose Sharks intro video. What are the Sharks going to do with showgirls?
I don't know. I mean, is this going to be some kind of like the infamous urban legend story about Led Zeppelin having a party with some of their groupies and a mud shark somehow got involved? And was inserted somewhere, and I don't know what's.
Maybe it's the inspiration for that Sand Sharks movie that Brooke would be in like 20 years later with Corin Nimick. I don't know.
Who knows? But also, just a quick side note: with that March to WrestleMania 9, we missed quite the main event or match that we sadly were deprived of at on the main show of the Beverly Brothers and Little Louie, who of course is a little person, against the Bushwhackers and their little person, Tiger Jackson, who will of course become Dink when Doink Bra turns face.
Oh, we'll have plenty to say about Doink later in this show.
Oh, yes.
Now, wait, was Tiger Jackson also the macho little person?
I think he might have been Mini Macho too.
Okay, good. I love that shit with the mini macho man. But yes, we're at WrestleMania 9 at Caesar's Palace. Now, in the documentary, Dane, they go through some of the history with Vince having this relationship with Caesar's Palace over the years. They had a primetime wrestling in Vegas at Caesars in 91. But also, Caesars was the setting for the Sugar Ray Leonard Donnie Lalonde fight, which Vince promoted back in 1988.
Yes, that I had to read up a bit more on that, and I think there was quite a few people that had their hands in promoting it as to build up the about the 20 million purse between that was split between Sugar Ray and Donnie Lalonde.
And also, they show some clips of that fight. And
Yeah.
what's amazing is they had Roy Firestone from ESPN doing like the segments from up high at Caesars. And I believe the guy doing play by play, I couldn't find this confirmed, but it sounded like the play by play man was Sam Rosen, the legendary MSG Network commentator for the Rangers who just recently retired.
Oh, okay.
But in 1993, Las Vegas was like advertising themselves as like the family capital for entertainment in the world. They were trying to get families to come to Vegas. And what better way to get the family together but for WrestleMania?
Well, definitely better than 93, 94 would have been the years of the ill-fated CFL US expansion, which actually had a team in Las Vegas called the Las Vegas Posse.
I think I do have a Las Vegas Posse shirt from one of those bootleg t-shirt sellers somewhere, along with a Baltimore Stallions 1995 CFL champion shirt.
The only successful US team that actually got at least moved back up to Canada to resurrect the Montreal Alouettes.
Okay, so let's get on to this show, WrestleMania 9. So our host for this show, because at the beginning, we have this cool like film montage, like going in with the image of Caesars with like Bret and Yoko.
Yeah.
That's like on film and such. It's very cool.
Yeah. As well as Vince destroying his vocal cords with the Las Vegas, Nevada, Caesar's Palace, WrestleMania 9.
And then we go to Gorilla, where he's in a toga. Because remember, this is the world's largest toga party.
Yep. Oh, we'll talk about the togas later too, because yep, there's a lot of togas. I think this is also the first year that they went with a host, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Although we only see Gorilla for like the opening. I think they might have done like an intermission because I do hear Gorilla like in the documentary. It sounded like he was doing an intermission.
Yeah. I think he did the intro there, opening, and then I think he did a quick little intro for the main event there. So that was about it for him because he then throws it to making his WWF debut this night. Good old JR. Snatched right fresh from WCW.
Okay, Dane, this is amazing. So Jim Ross had a show sponsored by WCW on WSB Radio in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And this was on this night, the final episode of his show on WSB. And do you know what they did? He did for the final show.
What did they do?
He had the entire episode have like a simulcast of the audio for WrestleMania 9. On a WCW sponsored show, they had the whole audio for WrestleMania 9 for the 3 hours on WSB in Atlanta for the last show.
Wow, that sure beats the simulcast of the final Nitro on Raw and vice versa.
Now, you got to remember, Dane, I think I told you this. I was not at my house. I was upstate at my uncle's house for the weekend, so I did not know anything about this pay-per-view until the following week, because this is the days before the internet, so I will talk about that when we conclude this pay-per-view. But when I heard Jim Ross for the first time on like the Superstars or Challenge the first week, I was like amazed, because it was like, okay, he was a new, and I knew of him from WCW because I remember, do you remember those WCW trading cards from back in the day?
Yeah.
I had it like maybe a couple of packs of, even though my area did not have TBS. Like they were everywhere, those WCW trading cards. So I knew of him from the trading cards. So when I found out he was in WWF, I'm like, oh, that's the guy from the trading card. And when I heard him talk, he'd talk about how he's from Oklahoma and all that. I was like fascinated, because it's like, wow, I don't know anybody from Oklahoma. But the way he would announce, it was like, it felt like something different.
Yeah, it was definitely a change of pace from the years of either Vince or Gorilla doing the pay-per-views, or if you're unfortunate enough to get I guess Craig DeGeorge, or if you had the French, I guess you would have Raymond Rougeau and Pat Patterson doing the commentary.
Oh, yes, it's me, Raymond Rougeau. I'm doing the commentary in French. That's my Raymond Rougeau impression. But JR introduces us to Fink, who today is Finkus Maximus.
Finkus Maximus.
And we have like all the ceremonies and such with like the Caesar and Cleopatra, the animals. Yep. We had this big ass elephant.
Yep.
And then we have Macho Man being carried around with a bunch of beautiful women being fed grapes.
Yep, the Vesto Virgins, as they were introduced as.
And then we see Bobby the Brain on a camel riding it backwards.
Yeah. Yes, because apparently, I guess in kayfabe terms, it was supposed to be Bobby who was supposed to be on the Sadat instead of Macho, but Macho played a switcheroo with him and got himself on the Sadat, and Bobby got put onto the camel instead, and backwards.
But then the best part is he falls down and is like all dizzy and stuff. And then Macho Man pulls the toga, and we see Bobby's blue underwear, and Macho gives a thumbs
up. Good times.
Oh, that was great.
Oh, yes. And of course, and then we get Macho doing Do the Thing.
Do the thing.
Do the thing. Lock and load. WrestleMania 9. Oh, yeah.
Now, before we get into our opening match, I want to bring up, we had a dark match on this show between El Matador, Tito Santana, and Papa Shango. And it was brought up in the WrestleMania 9 documentary because for Papa Shango, of course, the Godfather, Charles Wright, Las Vegas is his hometown. So that was like a big deal for him because a lot of his friends got to see him in his hometown at WrestleMania against Tito. And Tito got the win. Unfortunately, though, since it wasn't on the main show, it didn't break that 7-year-long WrestleMania streak of losing.
Oh. And speaking of matches that weren't, because I remember them mentioning it on the March to WrestleMania there, that there was supposed to be a match between Kamala and Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah, there was. I was disappointed that the match was not taking place. But there's like this funny bit in the Coliseum video, like apologizing for the fact the match didn't take place. And while it's crawling, you see Kamala with an elephant.
What did he like try to lead the elephant to freedom or something, or what?
Maybe he was trying to take the elephant who was in the opening ceremonies to freedom or whatever. I don't know. It's Kamala. He's just, hey, Kamala's going to be a legacy inductee to the Hall of Fame this year.
Yep, along with Dory Funk Jr. and I forget who else is the legacy inductee there too. But oh well.
Oh, well. I need to mention something in the documentary, too. Now, when the show started, like, they weren't used to, like, all these people, like, filing in and such.
Hmm.
Because usually how these big title fights in Vegas work, because this is the same, like, outdoor venue at Caesar's Palace where like they would have the title fights. Like that would be the same venue where they had the Riddick Bowe Evander Holyfield rematch later that year
Hmm.
in '93.
Yeah.
They only had like two entrances for like people getting into the building, and there was only like maybe an hour before the show, like 2,000 people in the venue. So they were rushing people to get into the venue. There's like 5,000 people in like these two different entrances. I think they even said like I think maybe Basil and Linda McMahon were even having to like take tickets and try to rush everyone to get into the
Yeah.
building. So now we have the Intercontinental title match to start off this show between the Intercontinental Champion Shawn Michaels and the undefeated Native American Tatanka Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Now, Tatanka had beaten Shawn Michaels in a non-title match on Superstars, and he had beaten him in a six-man tag match to set up this title match. And I got to be honest with you, Dane, I was very excited for this match.
I was excited too at the time because it seemed like the Tonka was something part of the that whole new youth movement, I guess, or the new generation. He was undefeated. Shawn Michaels, it seemed like he might have been ready for maybe something bigger and better on along the lines, and this could have been one way to elevate him, I guess, to that point to drop the title to an undefeated person. However, the inclusion of our two corner women out there is kind of befuddling.
Well, first off, for Tatanka, we have Sensational Sherry, which makes sense because Sensational Sherry was feuding with Shawn at the time.
Yeah, but I think she was partnered up with Marty Jannetty, who I think maybe to blow off for Shawn versus Marty, but I think Marty decided that he liked to party too hardy and got himself fired again.
But then we have for Shawn making her debut on this show, Luna Vachon.
And this makes the second time in our series that Luna Vachon is inexplicably involved in a match that doesn't really fit, or not necessarily fit, but why?
I do love the fact that Bobby brings up that she was Miss Ontario, and Andy's like, "What'd she win, a tough guy contest?"
I enjoy Bobby's little factoid like thing that she's related to the Vachon family, and her uncles are Paul the Butcher and Mad Dog Vachon, and that was a nice little nod of history lessons.
Hey, when we get to Mad Dog Vachon at the In Your House where Diesel took his leg, that's gonna be like so good. Because I gotta mention this story. My mom was seeing this when Diesel took his leg, and she was horrified when he took his leg and beat Shawn Michaels with it. So here we go, Shawn and Tatanka. Now, here is Scott's review of Shawn and Tatanka. Shawn goes for the takedown to start, and Tatanka fights him off. Shawn goes with the top wrist lock, and Tatanka powers out of that. So he goes with the headlock and has better luck there. Tatanka tries to power out, so Shawn walks the ropes to hold the move, then tries it again and gets dropped with a suplex as a result. Tatanka hits him with a dropkick and chops him to the floor, but Sherry keeps Luna from interceding. Shawn fights Tatanka off and comes in via the top rope with a sunset flip for two that went badly. Tatanka catches him with inverted atomic drop and a DDT, then goes to work on the arm. Shawn keeps threatening to pull hair, and the ref keeps catching him, so Tatanka is able to take him down again and goes back to the armbar. Shawn slugs out, but charges and runs himself into the post, allowing Tatanka to go back to the arm again. Shawn tries to alley-oop him in the corner, but Tatanka catches him with a shoulder breaker and goes up with a flying chop on the shoulder. Another one, but Shawn catches him with a super kick on the way down to take over. Shawn tosses him and Sherry chases Luna off again, but Shawn hits him with a clothesline off the apron anyway. Back in, Shawn gets a neck breaker for two. Standing dropkick gets two. Shawn hits the chinlock and then slugs away in the corner, then tries a victory roll and actually gets two. I don't know that Tatanka knew what was going on there. Shawn goes up and does it again, and this time Tatanka is hit to the room and drops him with an electric chair. That gets two. Tatanka misses an elbow, and Shawn goes up with a double axe handle, but it's pissed off racial stereotype, which actually gets a good reaction from the crowd. Tatanka blocks the super kick and chops him down, which Shawn sells like gunshots. Tatanka with a high cross for two. Catapult and a roll-up gets two. Papoose to go is reversed into a roll-up for two by Shawn. Shawn goes up to capitalize, but Tatanka catches him with the power slam for two. Shawn tosses him to catch a breather, but he does a dramatic dive from the apron and hits the stairs by mistake. He pulls out the ref in frustration and back into Tatanka with the papoose to go, but the ref calls for the DQ at 18-18. That is some weak sauce. People pull out the ref just to break up a 2 count these days. Much longer and better match than I remember, though. 3.5 stars. They really booked themselves into a corner here as they didn't want to end the undefeated streak and they didn't want to change the title, so you get this finish.
And that will be a recurring theme throughout the rest of the show here with ref bumps and screwy finishes or screwy non-finishes and stuff. But it was a decent opener. I mean, Shawn continues his streak of having decent opening matches at Mania. As I believe Mania 7, him and Marty opened up against Haku and the Barbarian. And then he had his opening match at solo at Mania 8 there against El Matador. And yeah, so this is, like I said, bigger and better things come up for Mr. WrestleMania. And Tatanka, well, thankfully, I don't understand. As we would probably find out, well, it was, I think, 93, I think they finally decided to end the undefeated streak against, of all people, Ludwig Borga, the evil Finnish environmentalist.
The evil Nazi Finnish environmentalist.
Oh, yes, we had to throw in because I think, I haven't seen it yet, but I think, his episode on Dark Side of the Ring just came up too, so.
Oh, it's a very good episode, Dave. I should note Dave gave this match 3.5 stars too, so.
Who knows what it would be today on his wacky scale.
Yeah, if it involved Will Ospreay, it would be 5 stars.
And if it took place at the Tokyo Dome, it'd be astronomically. The stars would be infinite.
So now our second match. The Head Shrinkers against the Steiner Brothers. Where Dane, history is made because for the first time ever, JR mentions the word slobber knocker because he talks about how if this was in Oklahoma, we call this a slobber knocker.
And I think we had some hilarious back-to-back banter between him and Bobby Heenan trying to explain what it was.
I gotta say, for a commentary team that was only on this in King of the Ring 93, this is actually a very good 3-man booth.
Yeah.
I love JR, Bobby, and Randy together. It's a shame that this was only for like the 2 shows.
Yeah, it almost kind of makes me think of modern day. Closest would be what we have right now on NXT with Vic Joseph and Booker T and Corey Graves. As we got Booker as the manic ex-wrestler, and we got Corey Graves as the smart aleck, and then we got Vic Joseph as the poor guy that's stuck between the two of them.
Also, Macho Man mentions that Michigan is in the national championship against North Carolina. Because this is Final Four weekend, this WrestleMania, and this was between the Final Four and the national championship. This was the national championship game where Michigan played North Carolina the next night, where Chris Webber called the Phantom timeout that cost Michigan the game. I know, Dane, you're not really into college.
I'm not a big U.S. college basketball person because it's got too many teams, too many places, too many lines.
Michigan Wolverines are not only proud of their basketball team getting ready for the NCAA finals, but they're proud of the Steiner brothers also.
Who cares about high school sports?
College sports.
Same thing. It's only 4 years difference. You don't get any cash for it. Just a bunch of little kids.
Ross, we haven't got time to educate Heenan.
You're right about that.
Give it up.
Who cares about high school sports? College. Same thing.
Same thing. They don't make any money. Well, that's 20 years later, they'll start getting all those next in line deals.
Also, Scott notes that there's a sign in the crowd that says, New York City loves the Steiners and the Undertaker. And Scott says, really? Just those three? Is it fair for one sign to speak for the entire city? What if some guy in Manhattan wants Mr. Perfect more? Was this sign created from a scientific poll of the city? I want to know. Oh, yeah, and I should also mention that in 32 years, Fatu's son is going to be wrestling for a world title at WrestleMania in Vegas.
Oh, yes. And we got Rick Steiner's son defending an Intercontinental title as well to WrestleMania.
Yeah, that four-way match. I'm just going to say it right now. I'll tell you who I think is going to win it. Dominic.
I see Dominic winning it as well, too.
Maybe starting a feud with Penta as a result.
Yeah. Or hopefully we get an end to the Judgment Day, because good Lord, this has gone way too long now.
Now let's get to Scott's review of Head Shrinker Steiners. Scott takes Fatu down with an armbar to start and hip tosses him out of the corner. And they slug it out until Fatu goes down. The Shrinkers double team Scott in the corner and toss Rick. But the Steiners regroup and both come off the same turnbuckle with clotheslines. Rick comes in against Samu, and Samu pounds him in the corner and follows with a clothesline. Rick hits him with his own and then sends him into the post at a crazy spot. Scott comes in with a butterfly bomb, but Samu drops him with a hot shot that turns into a crazy bump over the top when Fatu pulls the top rope down. Alpha hits him with the big stick for good measure. Back in the Head Shrinkers take over, and Fatu gets a backbreaker and a diving headbutt for two. Samu with a nice spin kick, but a blind charge hits boot. Fatu comes back in with a Randy Orton punt to put Scott on the floor, and Samu runs him into the post. Back in, Scott rams Fatu's head into the mat, and Fatu casually no-sells it and super kicks him down. I love that spot. Haku used to do that one too. And it's always great because the crowd pops for the initial move and then again for the heel comeback. Scott tries to fight out of the corner, and they poke him in the eyes, allowing Fatu to get a backbreaker for two. They clothesline each other. Fatu makes the tag first, and Samu cuts the tag off. He goes up and misses the flying headbutt, however, and it's hot tag Rick. Backdrop and slam sets up a series of Steiner lines, but ramming their heads together proves to be a mistake. Shrinkers hit the double stroke to take over again and try for a doomsday device, but incredibly, Rick catches Samu in midair and power slams him off Fatu's shoulders for two. Back to Scott, who suplexes Fatu but runs into another super kick from Samu. Scott has had enough, however, and finished him with the Frankensteiner at 14:20. They were just beating the hell out of each other here, and again, this was much better and longer than I remembered. 3.25 stars. And I should note, Dave gave this 2.5 stars in comparison. But I gotta agree with Scott's review. I loved this match as a kid.
Oh yeah, like that. Like even thinking back to like myself too. Like I enjoyed the Steiners as a team back then. Like too, like they were just doing stuff that was just out of the ordinary. Like even today, I just kind of jumped out of my seat when Rick hit that power slam off the Doomsday Device position there. I miss the old Samoans have indestructible heads so they can take whatever damage they can to the head gimmick part of their heritage.
Okay, now let's get into the match that we've been all waiting for, Dane. Kona Crush against Doink the Clown. Now,
Doink, brah.
Now,
Making kids cry, brah.
can we explain the history between Doink and Crush leading up to this match?
Oh, yes, we need to because there is quite the history. So, basically, before Doink had been not wrestling yet, but he had been in the crowds and playing mean pranks on both wrestlers and fans alike. As I think he set up one time a triple line to trip up the big boss man as he returned from a match and hit Tatanka in the face with a mop and popping kids' balloons. But cool, level-headed Kona Crush decided he had enough of our cursed clown's antics and basically told the clown to knock it off or he was going to have to do some damage to our poor cursed clown. And at one point, Crush did shake Doink's hand at one point and almost crushed his hand, which led to probably one of my favorites heel beatdown moments of all time when Doink comes out after a Crush match and he's got his arm in a sling and he gives Crush a flower to try and make peace with him. So Crush takes the flower, he walks away, unknown to everyone else. Doink takes off, it looks like it would end up being a prosthetic, and beats the crap out of Crush from behind with this prosthetic cast arm. It was loaded with D-cell batteries, apparently.
And then it led to like one of my all-time favorite articles in WWF Magazine, where Crush was psychologically scored because his grandfather was a clown, and he always assumed clowns were nice.
The idea of like having an evil clown was interesting at the time. We're still at least a decade and a half away from Heath Ledger's version of the Joker, so...
Oh yeah, it's too bad that the Dark Knight wasn't around until like the late 90s, because imagine the Attitude Era version of Doink the Clown.
I think that probably the closest we would have had that would may have been like we saw like in ECW there with the Born Again stuff. But that's another tale for another time. So yeah, and after leading up to this grudge match between Doink and Crush, I think we had Crush talking about how he's going to go swimming with the sharks and learn how to fight this evil clown. And of course, I think during one of those promos, he gave us the famous line, "Doink, brah, you're making kids cry, brah." And I think before the match, we had actually Doink channeling 89 Batman with painting up a visage of Julius Caesar, like with green hair and red lips, kind of like how Jack Nicholson Joker did when they broke into the art museum.
The only thing missing was like Prince's Party Band playing.
Yes.
Too bad Vince couldn't afford Prince in 1993.
Yeah.
So here we go, the big grudge match between Crush and Doink. So let's hear from Scott. Crush attacks on the floor and sends the clown into the post, and they head in for some angry choking from Crush. Randy notes that Crush is all over Doink like melting butter. Can we have a drug test for Savage, please? And also a drug test for whoever threw that orange, yellow, and purple tights would be a good idea for Crush. You take that back, Scott. Crush's outfit was awesome.
I love the creamsicle tights for Crush. Everything about Kona Crush was awesome. Like he had probably the best entrance music at the time. It's probably only behind Razor Ramon's theme, which we'll hear later. But yeah, like in the last show I was like, Bryan Adams is my boy. Like he's like, this was probably the best period of his work. Like was Kona Crush, and later on transitioning to Japanese Sympathizer Crush with the evil tribal drum music, and then wasn't too big of. I kind of dug Jailbird Crush before they decided to throw him in as, and then become white supremacist biker Crush with the rest of the DOA.
It's too bad Crush wasn't around long enough to see Mr.com pull our ring.
Oh yes.
It is the era of the web and DOA. Crush pounds away and gets a standing neck breaker, then snaps the neck on the top rope. Crush pounds away on the apron, but Doink retorts with his own neck snap and comes off the top with a series of forearms to put him down. Pile driver follows and Crush balls to escape, but Doink hauls him back in. He goes up, and we get my least favorite spot as Doink goes up and lands on Crush's foot, and Crush power slams him to make the comeback. Clothesline puts Doink on the floor, and Doink tries to hide under the ring. Crush pulls him back into the ring for a press slam and tries to finish, but Doink nails the ref and goes under the ring again. Crush hauls him back in again and applies the head vice. But, oh, here we go, Dane. What happens here?
It's an illusion. Wait, I'm seeing double here.
Another Doink? What?
Another Doink. Why is he there? How did he get there?
Why does he specifically look like Scooter?
Scooter? Oh, God. Reminds me of this one of the stories I remembered from OSW Reviews episode on this show. That's apparently, I guess, backstage, I guess Steve Kerr, also known as Skidder, also known as Doink Bra, the second Doink there, when he was in full Doink gimmick makeup and stuff, he was chatting up a lady backstage, and I guess the other Doink girlfriend at the time saw this and started yelling at him as if he was not born.
That's hilarious. The fake Doink hits him behind with the fake arm, and Doink gets the pin at 8:27, star and a half from Scott. But this is hilarious because they're copying each other like, ha ha ha.
I like the mirror spot. Am I seeing double and doing the whole pantomime mirror spot afterwards? And then you have like Bobby Heenan on commentary there saying, no, it was an illusion. He's a great illusionist. You don't know what. He could be David Copperfield for all we know.
My favorite part is after the match, Bill Alfonso comes down to confront Joey Morello trying to say, hey, there was another Doink. He looks under the ring like, huh? Well, where did he go? Where did the second Doink go? Now, my favorite part, I don't know if it's in the pay-per-view version or if it's later on the Coliseum video version.
I think it was on the Coliseum because I watched the pay-per-view version, which didn't have it, and I think it's the spot that I think you're afterwards, like Mean Gene goes backstage to interview Doink, and he asks him too, like, what is this nonsense? Do you think this is some kind of circus? And Matt Bourne, Doink is like, this ain't no circus, pal. And he goes and closes the trailer behind it, and second Doink comes behind him, just, excuse me, cut part of me, and then goes in the trailer as well, too.
Oh, just gold.
And of course, again, another favorite story of mine from this match was, I guess, taken from a Matt Bourne shoot about the real ending of this match that was supposed to have happened. That when Crush had Doink in the head vice, Doink was supposed to push some button that was going to shoot out a whole bunch of confetti and streamers out from his back, making it seem like Doink's head exploded and blinding Crush into confusion.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
But apparently that Rodder Dave Meltzer found out about it, and they had to change the ending to what this was.
Oh, God damn it, Dave.
But like a lot of shoot interviews, you take whatever a lot of these wrestlers say with a grain of salt, because apparently Matt Bourne was supposed to work a program of Hogan. Although, mind you, I would have liked to have seen a shorts TV Hogan Doink feud at this time.
Oh, that would have been gold. But just remember, Dane, Matt Bourne, he's not fake. Because Diesel used that word.
Don't use that word. My father wasn't fake.
You should have never been broken into the business. And the best is Diesel responding to him in that timeline of 1995, like, ooh, talking shit with that Giants cap. Now our next match, Razor Ramon against Bob Backlund.
Although before we go, we must also talk about Todd Pettingill and the Bob Euchre seats talking to our two racially stereotypical Japanese photographers.
Oh, God, yeah. I forgot about this segment. Yeah. He's going to these Japanese photographers and he's asking, "Did you see the two doinks?" And the Japanese photographers just laughing like, "Ha ha ha!"
Fans, Todd Pettingale is in the audience. Let's go to our colleague, Todd Pettingale.
We are live. We're up here in the Bob Uecker seats, WrestleMania IX, Las Vegas, Nevada. It is absolutely crazy up here. We're trying to take a poll. Was it two doinks? Was it an illusion? Ladies and gentlemen, this event is being covered all over the world. We're here with the photographers from Japan. Sir, were there two doinks in your opinion, or was it an illusion?
Doink. Yokozunaが強いじゃない?
No, sir. You have to. Were there two doinks? Sir, were there two doinks? All right. How are you enjoying your stay here in the U.S.?
Las Vegas, #1. Caesar's Palace, #1.
Hey, Yokozuna.
Yokozuna, #1.
Unbelievable. Two doinks or an illusion? We'll leave it up to you.
I swear to God, I thought if I didn't hear both of them speaking, I swear to God, one of them would have been Fuji Ito from the old Super Dave Osborne show.
Could you imagine if they'd gotten Super Dave for WrestleMania?
That would have been probably right up Bob Einstein's alley, and both Vegas and being a showman, and we need a legit time machine and to go back and like tell Vince all these different ideas. And also to tell him not to be such a creepy pervert.
Yeah, if you need to take a dump, Vince, just use the toilet. Just don't
Use a toilet, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
Now let's get on to the next match. This is one of the matches I think I mentioned, even during our Bob Backlund episode. That's a friend of mine and I, we were just kind of joking, oh, Bob's going to die in this one.
Even at like 14 years old, you knew Bob Backlund isn't going to fucking win this match.
Yeah. Hell, even the crowd kind of turned on Bob. Like, Bob was supposed to be the face. Razor's like the new cool heel guy, and the crowd's actually cheering for Razor halfway through the match.
Yeah, if you see this guy with like gold chains and everything, I would cheer for this guy.
Yeah, he's coming out all slicked hair. He's talking tough talk, and he even gets a nice little. I love too, like from Finkus Maximus, the Razor Ramon.
Now let's go to Scott. The crowd is clearly cheering for Razor, which I also noticed on the Poughkeepsie Raw as well. So the writing was on the wall there. Backlund evades him to start, but Ramon catches him and beats him down, then stomps away. Bob comes back with a hip toss out of the corner, but misses a drop kick and comes back with a butterfly suplex instead. He follows with an atomic drop and then slingshots Ramon in for the apron, but Ramon cradles him for the pin at 340. Big pop for that, 1 star.
Yeah, it was a short, basically squash disguised as trying to be a legitimate match. As Backlund tries to do his old fundamental stuff and gets steamrolled by the new upcomer. And I think this was also probably, not counting the submission or towel throw in that back in '83 there with Iron Sheik. I think this is Bob's first pinfall loss on WWF TV in history.
Well, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, because how many times would he have lost by pinfall in his original run? Not many.
Yeah, not many, yeah.
I don't even recall him losing by pinfall. I mean, other than the Bret match in '94, him losing by pinfall on TV.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that's... You want to talk about a protected star, there's someone who's really protected.
Now let's get into the first of our 2 main events. Money Inc. defending the WWF Tag Team titles against the Mega Maniacs of the Hulkster and Beefcake Barber. So Money Inc. is cutting a promo with Mean Gene, and they mentioned something, Dane.
Yes.
The Hulkster had a little accident at the gym yesterday.
Yes, and and it's not like the accidents that of like the infamous prank that Dynamite Kid played on Davey Boy Smith, where he switched out his steroids with milk.
With me at this time, the current reigning World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions here at Caesar's Palace, Money Incorporated, IRS, and of course, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Gentlemen, for the first time in a long time, I've got to believe that your tag team titles are in jeopardy? I've got two reasons, actually three reasons. One, the return of the immortal Hulk Hogan. Two, teaming up with Brutus the Barber Beefcake, managed by your former manager, the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Gentlemen, I've got to be honest with you. Actually, you started this all. It resulted from your actions on a recent edition of Monday Night Raw. Let's go back and take a look how this all unfolded. At the time, Ted DiBiase and Urban R. Shyster, I saw that. I couldn't believe it. Another man watching at home was the immortal Hulk Hogan, and quite candidly, he couldn't believe it either.
Yak, 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 Okerlund. We've been hearing him cry for weeks now. Well, it's time to put up or shut up. It's now. This is WrestleMania IX. This is Las Vegas, Nevada. And this is Caesar's Palace, where the stakes are always high. And that's the way Money Incorporated likes it, because the higher the stakes, the bigger the bankroll when you win. And we don't make bets that we can't win. They say they're going to bankrupt Money Incorporated. Well, how do you bankrupt a company who has an unlimited credit line? And that's what we've got. This is our city, the city of money. You're going to come into our city. This is our backyard. What are the odds, Okerlund, of beating a dog in his own backyard?
I don't know about that. I'm not a betting man. Urban R. Shyster.
You know something, mega morons? You've got all the answers. That's right. Beefcake, you've got the protective mask that's going to save you in this match. Well, I'm going to tell you what Money Inc.'s going to do to it. We're going to take the mask off and beat your face into oblivion. By the time we're through, you're going to look like a jigsaw puzzle with a few of the pieces missing. And speaking of jigsaw puzzles, we heard Hulk Hogan got into a little accident coming out of the gym last night. That's what money can do. And you know something, Okerlund? You think Beefcake's face looks bad? Wait until you get a load of Hogan's.
Well, I don't know if I completely follow that. I thank you, gentlemen. Tag Team Champions Money Incorporated. Right now, let's go to Fincus Maximus.
But yeah, they imply that they had some thugs beat up the Hulkster at the gym.
Yeah.
But the real life story is a little complicated with that, which is actually explained in the documentary.
Yes, I was going to ask, like, are they still holding to the company line of it was a parasailing accident?
Well, Hogan says it's the parasailing accident, but they actually interview Steiner, and he says Macho told him what happened, and Steiner says, "Yeah, I believe Macho's story."
I remember seeing it, and I was thinking, brother should have, he should have bobbed instead of weaved on that. It was a pretty nasty black eye.
That was the funny thing about it. I was like, he really got a good shot in the eye. So it was one of those really good black eyes that was pretty obvious when you see it. Like, well, what happened to you?
That doesn't look like makeup. That's for real.
I didn't give it to him. Wasn't me.
Of course, you know, everyone knows that Savage and Hogan didn't get along, so it didn't take long for the rumors to start flying around.
Hey.
Others, stories, Macho Man punched him, beat him up, but I wasn't there, so I don't know, but that was the story going around, and I rode with Macho Man. It was like, he told me what really happened, and I believed Macho Man's story, so I believe what he told me, but he wasn't happy about it. Shit happens.
Interesting. I guess he bought the story Randy told him. I've never had a fight with Randy. If they still want to believe it after you tell them what really happened, it's fine with me.
So whatever Macho told him, Scott believes. He didn't get it further than that. So maybe we'll never know what actually happened, but...
No, because the other person we could probably ask would be Macho, and unless we can... Only mediums and people who do this crossing over stuff weren't total bunk. We could actually ask the Macho Man.
So let's get to it. The WWF Tag Team Championship between the Hulkster, Brutus, and Money Inc. So let's go to Scott. Hogan is, of course, sporting a black eye here, and we've covered that enough for one lifetime. Beefcake's ridiculous protective mask looks like a rejected Kyle Rayner Green Lantern design. DiBiase starts with Beefcake and elbows him down, but he comes off the top and hurts his hand. When he hits Beefcake's mask, DiBiase rams Beefcake into the turnbuckle, and that has no effect either. And the faces take over on DiBiase. Hogan slugs away in the corner and clotheslines him, and Beefcake comes in for a slam. The faces pinball DiBiase in the corner, and Hulk clotheslines him out. And it's more of the same for IRS. The champs decide to take a walk, but they do the silly thing where the ref threatens to switch the titles if they walk out. Yeah, because you're not going to pull the same shit you did last year against the natural disasters.
No.
So they head back in, and DiBiase gets a cheap shot on Hulk and chokes away. Then gets the $1 million dream. Hulk basically sells it like a chinlock as Savage goes into his insane bit about how they're hanging from the rafters. If there were rafters, but there's not. There's columns, and they're hanging from them. Okay, then.
God bless you, Macho. I mean, as much nonsense he spatters as a commentator, I mean, I'm sure if Macho Mania was a thing, we probably would have insipid Macho Man commentary instead of like insipid Taz commentary. It's like, listen, I could probably listen to like a full 60 to 120 minute Macho Man promo. That's what having him on commentary feels like.
Beefcake breaks up the sleeper with one of his own, and that leaves both DiBiase and Hogan out for the double count. Hulk recovers first, and it's hot tag Beefcake. High knee for IRS, and DiBiase goes out via an atomic drop. But he hits Beefcake with the briefcase, and IRS drops an elbow to take over again. Really? Wasn't 15 minutes long enough for this shitty match? DiBiase tries to get the mask off and succeeds, and they go to work on his face now. Now they've already said that Beefcake was at 100% and didn't sustain any damage from the previous attack. So I'm not sure where the suspense is supposed to be coming from. Beefer comes back and puts IRS in the sleeper, and the ref gets wiped out as a result. Now the ref is unconscious. Why would Hogan bother waiting for the tag? Hulk gets the tag, puts him down with a mask, and both faces make the cover. But the ref... Okay, can you explain what happens here, Dane, at this spot?
Well, okay, so the referee is down. Normally you would expect another referee to come run in and... I mean, where's Charles Robinson in this time to come running in? But anyways, the ref is down. Jimmy Hart decides to get in the ring, takes off his jacket, and reverses it to reveal that it's like referee stripes, puts it on, and he makes the count for himself.
I guess that's good enough.
Yeah, that's...
But then Danny Davis comes out. This will never be acknowledged. But remember, Dane, Danny Davis is on probation for life because he got reinstated as a rep. So he probably is like, no, I can't let this stand no matter what.
I can't let this in good conscience stand. It's Bret stopping everyone using the sharpshooter at the WWA Inception again.
And he says, no, I've got to tell Earl, yeah, this happened. So we got to DQ the Mega Maniacs. I think Hulk and Jimmy and Brutus, they all throw him over the top rope, Danny Davis.
Yeah, Hogan and Bruce Beefcake threaten to, but they say, nah, you do it, brother, and hand him over to Jimmy Hart, who tosses him over the ring.
He's probably like, this is for 1988. Just an awful, awful finish, according to Scott, to an incredibly boring match. 1 star and a quarter. And he says, Hulk has been a wrestler for how long and still celebrates with the title belts when Jimmy makes the count? Are they supposed to be, oh, I'm not going to say this word. How dare you, Scott, use this word, the R word.
Oh, no. It was a different time.
It was a different time. But what happens, Dane? Because...
Oh, yes, we get the best part of the match after all. We have Hogan and Beefcake celebrating as if they won the match. We actually get Hogan doing a little bit of beefers, strutting and cutting. But they find Money Inc. still has their gold lace Halliburtons in possession. So they decide to open up this briefcase. And unlike the not knowing of what was actually in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, we get to see the contents of this briefcase. A bunch of tax forms, apparently, because IRS, a brick, and a wad of cash.
Yes, there's tons of cash. And the Hulkster, he's got the piles of cash in his hand. And then he proceeds to do the most amazing dance ever.
Yes, the Hogan money dance.
He has his arms. Okay, I'm gonna put the video on Dane. He does this.
Yeah. And to add more to this, Hogan and Beaver, they decide to give away this cash to the front row.
Yes, and the amazing thing is, Dane, this is real money.
Not gimmick money like we used to have with JBL there when he would have the money rain down. It just was gimmicked money with his face on it, or as we discussed in the pre-show that's at Mania 6 there when Jake Roberts did a similar spot stealing a wad of cash from DiBiase after his match and handing it to people that was also gimmick money. But we had celebrity spotlight on Mary Tyler Moore, who was at Mania 6 at ringside, and she switched out the fake $100 bill with one of her real $100 bills. I so love the commentary from Gorilla and Jesse. I think Jesse was like, "What does she need that money for?" Huh? And she's rich already.
But I think I told you, Dane, something in the pre-show from the documentary is I think Caesars gave like Basil DeVito and another guy like the briefcase full of like the cash, and Basil was tempted to like gamble the money on the craps table.
Yeah, well, I guess if it's real money, it's to maybe encourage people afterwards. Hey, go spend your well-earned $100. Try your luck at the craps table or at the blackjack because they're in a casino.
Then we get Todd interviewing Natalie Cole in the crowd. She said, "Nah, she didn't get any of the money, but she's having a great time." Which, good for you, Natalie Cole.
Good for that, yeah.
But also, we have Todd talking to like one of the guys from Caesar, talking about how big WrestleMania has been for Las Vegas this weekend. Oh, there's a funny thing I got to bring up in the documentary, Dane. So when the show started, like apparently like not enough of the people from Caesars were there for the start of the show. So they thought this was like a boxing thing where they could say, "Hey, can you like restart the show and like do this all over again?"
Yeah.
And not realizing that, no, when it's live, pal.
We're live, pal.
Dumbass Caesars people not knowing about how wrestling works. Okay, so this would be the part of the show where we would take an intermission. So we're going to take a commercial break and then come right back with the second half of WrestleMania 9, including our main event between Bret and Yokozuna.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
3 times the action on USA. First, get up close with the superstars on WWF Mania. It's a raucous roundup of the fiercest face-to-face competition in the inside track on the week ahead. Then WWF All-American Wrestling hits the road on location from across the nation with exclusive matchups of the ring's greatest rivals. And for over-the-top action that's uncut, uncensored, and uncooked, it's WWF Monday Night Raw. That's the WWF Power Pack Triple Slam. Only on USA.
British Bulldog's my name, wrestling's my game. In tomorrow's Daily Mirror, the amazing secret of my life. It's red hot, so listen good. Plus, get your teeth into a free hamburger at Burger King. You feeling hungry? You want a free burger? You got it, only with the Daily Mirror. Take a big bite tomorrow.
Hi, this is the Nature Boy telling you I'll be back on WCW this Saturday night on TBS.
WCW Saturday night, 6:05 Eastern, tonight on TBS.
To be the World Wrestling Federation champion, you gotta want it every day. It takes an integrated approach to training, and that is what ICO Pro is all about.
王道を行く全日本プロレスがついにスーパーファミコンに強豪16選手が繰り広げる超リアルプロレスゲーム全日本プロレス7月16日新発売メサイア
Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Play with the pros. George Foreman's KO Boxing, Roger Clemens MVP Baseball, and NBA All-Star Challenge are now on Genesis from Flying Edge. Odor Eater's Foot Powder. Its super drying formula can absorb 25 times more wetness than talc. Odor Eater's Foot Powder.
WWF figures give you
fury of the Hitman, and the bite of the Bulldog, and the firepower of Sergeant Slaughter. WWF figures each sold separately. Dig it?
And we're back. So, Dane, we got 3 matches left on this show. And I'd say these are 2 matches that I'd be looking forward to before the main event.
Oh, yes. The long-awaited in-ring debut
of the narcissist Lex Luger against Mr. Perfect. Now, at the 93 Rumble, Bobby Heenan was talking about some guy named Narcissus, which we find out in the documentary that the reason he says Narcissus is because Bobby Heenan apparently couldn't pronounce narcissist.
So not only was his debut probably at the Rumble a big rib on Vince's love for oily, muscly men, even his name was like a rib on Bobby Heenan too, trying to trip him up every time to talk about him.
Also, I love in the documentary they show like original like designs of like his costume and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, wow, I haven't seen these in like forever. Like some of the original designs they had for Lex were awesome. It's like I would have loved to have seen some of these.
Oh yeah, that's even I can even think like I think even showing like in one of Mick Foley's documentaries how they had the design, some of the design ideas they had like for Mankind like first. This should be stuff that they're making on Peacock and even the event and later on Netflix whenever they decide to move that stuff over, because that's the kind of stuff I'd be interested in watching.
So we have Lex coming out and we have him making his entrance with like 4 beautiful women holding mirrors. And Lex is posing and there's pyro coming out of the mirrors.
Yeah, and unfortunately at that time the wind decided to pick up a bit in the stadium.
Yeah, the wind went into business for itself.
Yeah. Thankfully, those 4 women had the mirrors to at least shield themselves from the pyro, so they wouldn't catch on fire.
Oh, God, that would have been terrible if that happened.
Didn't that kind of happen at one of the Tampa Manias there? That's the top, like the nosebleed seats. Some of the fans got, it's like...
Yeah. I think
first
that
and
happened.
2nd degree burns from the pyro.
God. Yeah. That did happen, I remember.
That would be a PR nightmare here almost. If it was more people, but I guess who knows, but I'll now have to look that up and see what happened as a result of that.
So this is basically like as a result of Bobby still being pissed at Mr. Perfect
for taking up becoming Macho's partner at Survivor Series after Warrior decided to bail out again. And that's the idea that the narcissist was beyond perfection. And then we also had, I think, before...
I also think they bring up on this like earlier in the day at the WrestleMania brunch, because they had a WrestleMania brunch for some reason at Caesars.
I think that was maybe their version of like what they now call the World, or what they used to be called like the Fan Fest or whatever. That's just like a chance for like fans and stuff to have brunch with the superstars, I guess. Or it was like even I think like WrestleMania 6 and 7 and 8 they had all kinds of different fan activities. But yeah, I guess at this brunch Bret got KO'd by Lex Luger with his forearm. That seems to be knocking people out left, right, and center.
Oh, yeah, the steel forearm of doom.
And I guess apparently also we saw that apparently in this footage, because I looked it up afterwards, and I guess the person who gave Lex the cue to go was our old friend Warzone Gummidge, Rene Goulet.
Oh. Yeah, because we do see Renee in a toga during this show. So that's a great sight. Renee Goulet in a toga.
Yeah, and all the other officials as well too, except for one, which we'll talk about when we get into that match. But then we have Perfect coming out, and we got the ladies coming by, and there's one that kind of tries to rub Perfect's chest, and it's like, kind of like, get away from me, cooties. And I'm like thinking, yeah, okay, I think you two hooked up the night before. Yeah. Thinking that today, like not thinking that back then, but
Here's the Scott review for this match. This should have been great and just wasn't. Although people often compare Perfect's style with Flair's and assume that he'd mesh well with Luger because of that. But heel Luger versus face Flair was never any good either. Perfect tries to headlock to start, and they trade hammerlock attempts, but Luger makes the ropes. Perfect hits a knee lift and drop kicks, and Luger bails to think it over. Back in, Luger with a cheap shot to take over, and he runs Perfect into the turnbuckle, but a big boot is blocked, and Perfect goes to work on the leg. He chops away in the corner, but Luger whips him into the turnbuckles, and Perfect bumps out of the ring. Luger works the back in the ring and gets a backbreaker, then drops an elbow for 2. Pin in the corner gets 2. Lex with the power slam for 2. Perfect sunset flip gets 2, and he comes back with the sleeper, but Luger runs him into the corner to break. Perfect slugs him down as this is going nowhere fast, and a small package gets 2. Perfect catapults him into the corner and puts him down with the axe forearm for 2. Perfect with another forearm for 2, and a neck breaker gets 2. Ugly missile dropkick gets 2, but Luger is in the ropes. He tries a backslide, but Lex hooks the ropes and reverses for the pin at 10:55, despite Perfect's legs being in the ropes. Just goes to show, never depend on the ref seeing you in the ropes. Always kick out. They were on 2 different planets here for whatever reason. Star and a half. Now, what happens here after the match, Dane?
well, after the match, we got Luger deciding afterwards to give Perfect a good old smack with the steel forearm of doom and leaves victorious. Perfect decides he still wants a piece of the narcissist, goes backstage, and we see both Shawn Michaels and the narcissist talking, and Perfect makes a beeline straight for the narcissist, and instead we get also Shawn Michaels deciding to jump in and take a few swipes at Perfect. So we're building, I guess, now to a Perfect Michaels feud for the Intercontinental title, mayhaps.
Maybe. Now, our second to last match on this show, The Undertaker against the Giant Gonzalez.
Oh boy.
I will say this. When the Giant Gonzalez debuted at the Royal Rumble, now this was the only pay-per-view that we actually ever bought. We had like this big party at our house with my brother hosting it all. And we had this big party. Everyone on our block watched it. And when we saw the Giant Gonzalez come out, we were like, holy fuck. This guy is... Where the fuck did this guy come from? Because look at him. He's beating the shit out of The Undertaker.
Yeah, that's just like continuing, I guess, along the feud with Harvey Whippleman and Kamala, because we had Kamala getting beat by Taker at Survivor Series in that casket match, and then beginning the long trope of the heels are afraid of caskets and or coffins. No, wait, it was a coffin match. So Harvey Whippleman decides to go to some far-off land and bring this 8-foot ape man to the ring to get revenge.
I guess. He's not talking about wanting the belt.
Of course, not being not knowing anything about WCW, I had no idea this was El Gigante, or even knew anything that of his work as a giant this player for Ted Turner's Atlanta Hawks NBA team. So just seeing this 8-foot guy in some giant hairy bodysuit is like, okay, this is, I mean, I know this is probably like would become, I know this is kind of Vince's trope of booking of his babyface versus whatever the monster of the week type thing. But God, was he ever not great?
No, but I don't know. Gotta love the guy. Everyone loved him backstage, but I mean, what do you expect from a guy that big? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, there was even like on the March to WrestleMania, there was a match between Taker and Bam Bam that was not too bad. I mean, this was Bam Bam's kind of return back to the Fed. Why couldn't we do Bam Bam versus Taker at the Mania for whatever reason?
yeah, I don't know why they couldn't have done that, but I'm not the one who's booking, I guess.
I mean, there's a lot of things I would have done differently with some of the matches on this show, but maybe we'll talk about that in the end there.
But I will say, the Undertaker's entrance.
This is also another beginning thing of what would become part of modern Mania tropes is the elaborate entrances. They got the green smoke and the chariot and the vulture, and if only it was nighttime.
Oh, that would have been more awesome if it was night instead of the day. In the Peacock documentary, I think they show Taker rehearsing this spot, and he remembers about how the vulture just was not cooperative at all, and he was like so scared, like, oh God, the vulture is probably going to go into business for itself during the show or whatever. And then when the show happens, it's like the vulture is like complete
cool.
Professional. Yeah.
I wonder if that's the same vulture that Sting would stick on the NWO. I think would end up being the very last Clash of the Champions. The vulture's just sitting nicely on the ring ropes, and everyone in the NWO is just trying to be freaked out by this harbinger of doom.
I also love that some guy had like a sign that was maybe printed in print shop that says Johnny Gonzalez, rot in peace.
Oh, yeah. That was quite the impressive sign for 93.
Let's hear from Scott. Gonzalez hammers on Taker to no effect and then chokes him into the corner, but Taker climbs the ropes and chokes right back. Giant goes low to break, but Taker goes old school and slugs away in the corner while Giant makes faces in his sad attempts to sell. Gonzalez with a clothesline, and he pounds away and hip tosses Taker, then goes to a standing chinlock of some sort. And that just goes down on forever until he tosses Taker and sends him into the stairs. Back in, Giant headbutts him down, but Taker fights back, and we get more of Gonzalez selling like a moron. The managers get involved, and Gonzalez smothers Taker with a chloroform-soaked cloth for the DQ at 7:37. I should note that the referee for this match was Fonzie.
Oh.
But I should note, like, wasn't Bill Alfonso like his handler for Giant Gonzalez?
Yes, he was. Yeah, because I think I mentioned that during the pre-show last time. That was Fonzie's role. Like he was kind of like the Tim White for Giant Gonzalez, as Tim White was to Andre, like just to make sure that he was getting to the shows on time and all that kind of wonderful stuff.
Scott says, I can't even watch this without thinking of The Simpsons now. And you idiot, those are chloroforms. These are some especially bad finishes tonight, and this was just as terrible as advertised, with Gonzalez unable to do the simplest moves properly or sell anything. -4 stars.
Ooh, not quite -5 stars. So it's only a star better than Jenna Maraska versus Charmel.
Oh, God. You know what? This is a 5-star classic compared to Jenna and Charmel. And then later, of course, it leads to SummerSlam with the Rest in Peace match, where 32 years later, Dane, I still don't know what the rules for a Rest in Peace match are.
Probably a convoluted Texas death match, last man standing match, I'm guessing.
Who the fuck knows?
After the chloroforming of Undertaker, we had all the backstage officials coming out in their toga. So we had Terriger and the aforementioned Rene Goulet. But who's too good to be in a toga? Pat Patterson.
Oh, no.
There's not having the togas on me.
I don't want the togas on me, Vince.
Also, we have Jack Doan in a toga.
He's looking like freaking David in Star Trek 2 with that getup.
During this, they're taking Taker back to the backstage area. Gonzalez decides to wall upon some referees, and then we hear the ceremonial bong, and Taker comes back out as if like getting some final words from like Vincent Gorilla. Get back out there and save this segment, damn it! And we get Taker actually chopping down and taking down the giant monster for a decent sized pop from the crowd. As well as before this, we also had the crowd strangely chanting for Hogan for some reason.
Oh, yes. You know what? We could have gotten a Hogan Gonzalez feud. That would have been so fucking great.
That's right, brother. I tore all my pectoral muscles and back muscles, slamming the 9-foot Giant Gonzalez in front of 100,000 people in the Pontiac Silver Superdome here in Louisiana.
And then he died 10 minutes after the match.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Hulk tale ever. Andre died 5 minutes after the match.
A few months later, he was dead, even though you were still feuding with him at Survivor Series. And then we had the main event of Hogan Andre 2.
Not to mention that one cage match at County Stadium on a Coliseum video.
Oh, Hogan, we should do a special episode where it's just going all through the tall tales of Hulk Hogan.
You think I should get Mike and he can use the Hulkster character in the episode while we go through the tall tales?
That'd be a good crossover project.
But the Hulkster's backstage with Mean Gene.
Oh, God. And thank God I didn't watch this stuff in the day, like, because even now, just knowing after the fact everything that's just this sense of dread. But you're done, Hogan. You had your match. You did all your hot dog and grandstanding. Why are you still here? Well, I talked to the brother, and he's a brother, and he's got the Hulk. I got all my Hulkamaniacs behind him, brother. A word to the wise, brother. Watch out for that.
He actually said, well, let's be honest, okay? We were warned back in 1993 he had those tendencies, and we didn't listen.
This is like, and I'm like thinking, God, where's... Now I'm having like flashbacks of like early Stampede wrestling when you have like J.R. Foley with his Hitler mustache cup talking about calling out the Jew, and yet Roddy Piper and Brad Hughes Brown is edited off WrestleMania 6 on both the Peacock and also the Netflix version. Let that think for a minute.
Also, in case you're wondering, that word is included in the Peacock closed captioning. They don't censor it out. But then we get Todd in the crowd talking to two fans wearing makeshift toga gear. That I think they got. Where'd you get the togas? They say they got it at Motel 6.
And I think before then, I think he tried to question some poor little kid there with like big ears, and the kid doesn't say anything, and Todd's like, yeah, I'm from there too.
So here we go for the WWF title. Bret defending the title against Yokozuna. Now, Dane, the week before on Challenge, I believe, we had the contract signing between Bret and Yoko, where Yoko just squashed Bret during the contract signing.
Yeah.
And I remember the lead up to this match, like they had the Bret music video to refit Franklin's respect.
Yep. In between that and as well as the WrestleMania rap song.
Oh, the Simon Cowell song.
Yes.
WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I got that album on cassette at Kmart back in the day.
Actually, I watched because they had it on the Vault channel on YouTube. They had like a short little, like 10 minutes behind the scenes stuff there. It was just neat to see kind of like, even like, because I think they show the making of for the video for the WrestleMania as well. I guess they did one for the SummerSlam Jam. They showed like Taker, and it's just really unnerving to see afterwards, like Taker just smiling and kind of joking with the producers, as well as I think at the launch party of the album, they had a young, not quite famous yet, Queen of Extreme, Francine, seen there enjoying some adult beverages at the launch party of the album.
Wait, Francine was at the launch party?
Yeah.
What was she doing there?
I don't know. She was, like I said, she wasn't quite discovered yet by Paul Heyman to become the Queen of Extreme in ECW, so she was just a random fan. But yeah, I guess people in the comments spotted, yeah, there's Francine there.
That's about as insane as, like, Beulah being recommended to Raven by, of all people, Ron Gant from the Atlanta Braves. True story.
Talking about all this other non sequitur stuff is showing how much we really want to talk about this match.
Well, I guess we better get into it then.
Yeah.
Yokozuna comes out. I believe there's like two geisha girls giving him flowers.
Yeah. As was the style of the time.
And then we have Bret coming out. So let's do this. Here's Scott's review. The buildup was that Bret was having the worst week of his life and had no chance to beat the guy who outweighed him by 200 pounds. So you can see why this did the buy rate it did. Like, wouldn't you at least pretend that Bret has a shot to beat his challenger? They spend literally the whole pay-per-view talking about how bookmakers have Yoko as the odds-on favorite. Yeah, this was something that was mentioned in the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Caesars for Fun, like, had the odds for the world title match and the tag title match, and they put, like, for entertainment purposes only. But people actually wanted to bet on the matches. So they actually just decided, you know what, F it. We'll just have people, like, gamble on the matches.
Foreshadowing to what we would get with DraftKings and stuff sponsoring AEW.
Yeah, I guess you could say this Mania was like a pioneer of that. Bret drops kicks him into the corner to start and slugs away, but Yoko tackles him to the floor. Bret trips him up and slingshots him back in, then drops the elbow off the middle rope. Yoko comes back with a clothesline and slam, and the Hulkbuster leg drop falls. He chokes Bret onto the ropes and goes to the nerve pitch. Yoko charges and misses that allows Bret to get a sort of bulldog for two. Yoko puts him down again with the super kick and goes back to the nerve hold. Another charge misses again, and Bret gets another bulldog for two. Then the middle rope elbow for two. Clothesline puts Yoko down, and Bret slugs away in the corner. But Yoko puts him down with an atomic drop as Bret yanks the turnbuckle pad off. Bret sends him into the steel and hooks the sharpshooter, but Fuji tosses a big old handful of salt in his face, and Yoko gets the pin and the title at 8:49. Watchable, but Bret could only do so much here. Star and a half. Now, I believe Bret has said
the match was supposed to go on longer.
Yeah.
But Yoko kind of like got tired out. They had to
go to the finish early.
Yeah, that was... I know, yeah, I think he even mentions it in his book there. And he's told, I think after the match, like he apparently told Yoko and Fuji that those 10 minutes, he's not don't ever expect him to get those 10 minutes back. And I know he wasn't quite getting to the size that he would become, but even like watching like some of the previous stuff, like when he was Coquina Maximus and AWA, he's just so agile, and if he could have stayed at that weight, Yoko probably could have lived longer than he did.
Although I will say, I think the Mania 10 match would be much better. So yeah, Yokozuna's the new champion. So I guess the show's over.
The show's over. The heel won. First time in Mania history, the heel comes out on top.
Yeah, it's a disappointment. What is that?
A minute.
Why is the Hulkster? Oh, the Hulkster's going to come out to pro. Yeah, he's going to tell Earl. Yeah, this was bullshit.
He's going to kick the ropes like Tito Santana did at Mania 1.
Mr. Fuji is like, come on, you yellow boy.
Fuji, stop, you idiot. Yoko's probably your most successful talent you've had. He's actually got the belt. And he got blown up in less than 10 minutes. You're not going to check. Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, don't do anything stupid. Oh, what is he saying? He's saying he's gonna challenge. Well, okay, he's gonna challenge because Hulk said that he would challenge the winner. Yeah,
challenge the winner of where he didn't necessarily say when he was going to challenge the winner of the match, I guess. So see you at SummerSlam or King of the Ring, I guess.
Wait, what did Fuji just say? He said he's going to put the title on the line.
Put the title. And I noticed something here too, which we'll get to. Hogan's like looking back and forth between going into the ring and trying to help out Bret. But like I'm thinking, but your brothers now, Hogan. Help out your fellow comrade Bret now. You guys are friends. Bret's a brother. Bret then like waves him off like, do it.
But also, I think if you pause when you're seeing like Hulk being all confused or whatever, in the crowd is actually Oscar from Men on a Mission. Because I think now how he got his job as the manager of Men on a Mission was Randy Savage saw him like rap in an elevator, and Randy recommended him to like Vince or whoever.
Yes, I think I remember that story too. That it was like I wasn't sure if it was Randy Savage, but that's how I heard that. How he got the job was like either like you said Savage or a bunch of other office guys, I guess, saw him perform or whatever and recommended him to Vince. Almost kind of like that's how Goober Jameson got a job, I guess, because I guess Vince and some other guys, they saw him doing like some stand-up work at some club in New York and figured that he would be a startling addition to the roster.
And what a great addition Jameson was.
Yes.
So we're going to have an impromptu title match.
Impromptu title match between Hogan and new champion Yokozuna. But I never heard the bell ring. So was it really an official match?
You fucking got me, Dane. But wait, Fuji's got more salt. Oh no, he's going to throw it in. What? It hit Yoko by mistake.
Hogan ducked just in time to get Yoko in the face instead. Then Hogan throws Fuji over. I think we get big boots, big leg, and a 1, 2, 3. And I think Yoko then beats Andre's record for shortest title reign. If they're actually recognizing Andre's win at the main event before he relinquished it to Ted DiBiase.
We need to take a stopwatch and see which title reign was shorter. But I gotta say, I remember getting home from my trip the next week watching Superstars and seeing, Yokozuna won the title, but Hulk Hogan won it. I'm like, what?
That was my same reaction too. Watching Superstars that week was like, because last I heard, it was Bret, Yoko, and Hogan was going after the tag titles with Brother Brutai, and he's the world champion again. What?
But I gotta be honest, Dave, at the age of 8, going on 9 in a month and a half, I'm like, okay, so the Hulkster won the title. I'm not pissed or any. It's like, I'm not reading the freaking Wrestling Observer newsletter.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know shit
about
about backstage politics.
Yeah, I don't know about the politics and the bullshit of stuff, but either at that age. But it was I was heartbroken, that Bret lost because Canada, but 13, 14-year-old me at the time, okay, yeah, Hogan's champion again, but big deal, okay. But just maybe you'll give Bret a fair shot somewhere down the road.
Yeah, because I think wasn't the intention they were going to do a match at SummerSlam, because...
Yeah, because I remember Bret's book that they actually had shot some promo shoots of him and Hogan playing tug of war of the belt.
And those photos, I gotta think they exist somewhere. I would love to see them unearthed one day.
Yes, that would be... I mean, hey, if we can get unearthed the photos of Hogan having a good chat with the Giant Gonzalez backstage, we can hopefully get the many aborted feuds and matches that never happened photo album book, maybe.
We can only hope. But I will say that this show, it's not a great WrestleMania,
No, the reason why it gets crapped on as much as being like the worst WrestleMania ever, I think it's the whole Roman Coliseum theme. I think kind of plays into it being. I mean, I can think of like even just before, kind of like I was watching some of the previous Manias, and Mania 2 itself was like a whole mess of things. There was some cool spots here and there, but trying too much with the 3 different cities and stuff. And then, of course, 2 years later, I think Mania 11 is a worse Mania in terms of it was just like such a down. Like it was just like, of course, being in the Hartford Civic Center is also not the best place to have any kind of event. Even the later modern Manias, like I think whatever the Mania there that was John Cena and The Miz as the main event, and was all basically designed around building up Dwayne.
Oh yeah, that would be a theme later on. Dwayne inserting himself into a program that is turning into a mess. That's not a pattern with Dwayne later on.
Pattern of behavior, my friends. Pattern of behavior. But also a lot of screwy finishes with like ref bumps here and there, and I think that's another reason why people kind of. I don't think the only 2 matches that I think had any kind of clean finish was the Steiners, Head Shrinkers, and Backlund Razor. Everything else was all. Because I mean, Tatanka Michaels was DQ win for Tatanka. Doink and Crush was all the shenanigans there. Mega Maniacs Money Inc. was all the shenanigans there. Perfect and Luger was the best leg spot. Taker's undefeated streak is predicated on a lie as he won by DQ over Gonzalez. And then here we had the main event was just the 2 relied on salts being thrown in people's eyes. So I can see why people would say this is the worst Mania ever, but watching it now again, it wasn't as bad as one would think so.
No, especially considering they just freaking released a documentary about this WrestleMania. I kind of have a fondness for this WrestleMania, watching this as a kid, but I know this WrestleMania is not the best, but I would rather watch it than any of the Mr. Black Manias.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to know what Dave gave the Bret Yoko match?
Oh boy.
He gave it 3 stars.
3 stars.
And yet Kurt Angle has never had a 5-star match rated by Dave.
And I keep joking that every new opponent of Will Ospreay, congratulations. You've just earned your first and probably only 5-star match ever given by Dave Meltzer.
You know Will's going to win that freaking Owen tournament, and he's going to go to All In. You know Dave's going to like go fucking nuts over that title match. With Fox.
And already the men's own Hart tournament is better than the Super J Cups of the 93, 94.
My balls are better than that. Don't get me freaking started on that shit. Oh. So, what do we have to say about WrestleMania 9? It's not the best WrestleMania, but I've seen worse than this, to be honest.
It's a mixed bag. Probably take about 10 minutes out of the tag team title match a little bit, because it didn't need to go on as long as it did. But keep all the post-match shenanigans with the money dance and giving away the money and all that stuff. And maybe a different opponent for Bret. I mean, this is a bit of a fantasy book, because apparently before getting relegated to commentary, Savage was apparently talking to Vince about he was willing to put Bret over as the new face of the company. Like he was willing to face Bret at Mania and to kind of, because I think that was one thing Bret was lacking was, yeah, he had his going on with the whole respect thing, but he was going on beating people like the Repo Man and Skinner and stuff like that.
Papa Shango, I remember on a Saturday night's main event.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to have had like a Hulkamania era star put Bret over as being like the guy now. And you know what? Savage would have done it.
Yeah, he would have definitely done it. But alas, it was not to be.
It was not to be.
Well, that does it for WrestleMania 9. So we got WrestleMania this year coming up from Vegas, and it's going to be way better than this WrestleMania.
At least one night will be better.
I have high hopes for that triple threat between Roman, Seth, and Punk.
So that's going to be the highlight of Saturday night. And then I think the Sunday night card, now they've kind of revealed, Sunday night seems to be the definite more of the work rate friendly ones, because then you got four-way with Penta, Dominic, and Finn for the Intercontinental title with Breaker. You got the Women's World title there on the triple threat now. That's basically seems to be a redux of WrestleMania 20 with Triple H and Shawn and He Who Should Not Be Named.
But also, we got to wonder what's going to happen between Cody and Cena in the main event.
Yeah, but also now, thinking back to now that we got Randy Orton no longer having a match due to Kevin Owens' unfortunate neck injury, putting him out now for at least a year. We get the replay of redux of this Mania's finish, where Dastardly, Evil Cena wins. Orton comes out.
Oh, wait. This would be so fucking great. Dwayne kicks Cena in the balls. Orton comes out, pins him. It's like SummerSlam with Daniel Bryan all over again. And
Yes.
Orton wins the belt.
Yeah.
I said this to somebody. It's a shame Drew right away cashed the Money in the Bank, because it would have been so perfect if he had saved this.
Saved it for a moment like this. Yes.
Yes. It was like a master plan by Dwayne and Drew.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because he even had Drew talking last year that Dwayne gave him a sweetheart deal through re-sign. But that would have made sense.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens for WrestleMania 41 next week. But next time, when we do the Squared Circle Time Machine, hey, Dane, how about we do a Coliseum home video?
Yes, we should. Been having fun watching a lot of those on the Vault channel.
Well, I got a great idea. How about we go and look at some hits from Paul Bearer and see what he has in store for a Coliseum home video?
Paul Bearer's Hits from the Crypt?
Yup.
Is this like Paul Bearer's version of Tales from the Crypt? Or oh, yes, welcome to my crypt.
Paul Bearer is the Crypt Keeper?
Yes. You don't stand a ghost of a chance with my Undertaker.
Oh, I'm going to present some random matches. I'm going to show Mabel against Bam Bam Bigelow. Everyone wants to see that, I guess. How about Bret Hart against Quang?
Not Quang.
What's the sound of 400 pounds of shit in the fan? Quang.
Quang.
Next time on the Squared Circle Time Machine, we're going to look at Paul Bearer's Hits from the Crypt. And that's going to be coming up right here on the Squared Circle Time Machine. And we'll see you next time. Enjoy WrestleMania, everybody.
But joining me right now, none other than the evil clown. And ladies and gentlemen, this smiling face belongs to one Doink the Clown, the evil clown. I mentioned that.
I don't take that very kindly. There's nothing evil about me. It's because I have a smile on my face and you don't. Don't you have a sense of humor, Gene Okerlund?
Well-
I go everywhere with a smile on my face.
I don't have a sense of humor, and neither does Crush, the man that, well, you've got some unfinished business with.
Well, do you think that scares me? Ooh, I'm scared.
Well, if it doesn't scare you, I've got a surprise for you, because
Ooh, I
standing
like
by
surprises.
via a special television hookup right now, what's going on here? Now what's happened? Do we have a technical malfunction? Oh, hey, what is this? What the? Are you guys trying to jerk me around? What's going on here? What is this? What? There are two of you, aren't there? There are.
You see two?
Doink, I see two. Doink two. Say something.
Does that answer your question?
Oh, give me a break, please. Lose it, huh? Guys, enough of you.
You're as bad as Crush.
Doink or Doink's the clown. I knew all along there could have been a whole